Hi friends, welcome back to Spirit School. Welcome back to Technique Week. I hope you enjoyed yesterday's technique and I hope that you enjoy this one as well. Take your notes, try it on for size, take what resonates, leave the rest behind. Never forget to have fun on your path and try to find joy. And if you just need this reminder at this moment to lighten up and have some fun around the exploration and the unfoldment of your abilities.
Welcome to your technique of the week. This technique is on blending clairs. Now, for some people, this might seem painfully obvious, and this was not painfully obvious to me when I was first developing my mediumship. So if you're anything like me, which so many of you are, I hope that you will find this micro lesson and this technique valuable in your journey, whether it's this week or at some point in your development path. So when I first started developing my mediumship, I trained under someone who solely identified as a clairvoyant. So the language was, what can you see? What can you see? What can you see? What can you see? And the truth is, clairvoyance for me was the last clair to get really developed. And it was quite a bit into my development journey. So when I was sitting there, everything felt very like there was no aliveness to it. There's no richness to it. It felt very static. It felt very still when I was just trying to tune into a vision. I see popcorn, right? Popcorn doesn't really do much for me visually, to be honest with you. And that's how it felt for me. I see popcorn. It felt very empty and it never felt very important. So when I started really looking at clairvoyance as an example, to make things come to life for me, to give things that life force energy that make it easier for me to read, I would have to multitask seeing popcorn. How do I feel about this popcorn? All of a sudden, I felt this deep sense of connection. And then all of a sudden, as I tuned into the feeling of that popcorn, I found myself in a movie theater, but my client was quite little. So as I'm looking at this popcorn and I'm feeling into this popcorn, all of a sudden I'm aware I'm in a movie theater. And I know that mom is sitting next to me as I'm eating this popcorn. And I recognize this as a memory of, being a kid and going to the movies with your mom. Was this something significant that you all did? Right? And so this is blending clairs. So I started off with this visual of popcorn. And a less trained Danielle would have just been like, popcorn, popcorn, popcorn. What do I know about popcorn? But it wasn't until I blended the clairsentience where I was like, how do I feel about this popcorn? And then all of a sudden it started to become alive. I knew I was in the movie theater. The claircognizance started to kick in. I can actually hear the tick, 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 tick of like a reel playing of a movie. So then all the clairs start to really come in. So much like if all of a sudden you hear a word, I can imagine for those clairaudience, which I'm so envious of you, but the clairaudience that comes in, I heard the name Frank, right? So some mediums will just say, who's Frank? And that's great. It's very impressive, but is there a way to feel into it, right? How do I feel about Frank? Or how does Frank feel about my sitter? And then things really start to come to life. So my technique for you this week is I want you to get used in a session to asking questions of yourself, right? So, I hear sand. Or what am I hearing right now? Sandpaper. That's actually what I'm hearing. I'm like, sand? How do you hear sand? I'm hearing sandpaper. So as I hear sandpaper, I'm like, I wonder what I can see. Right? So as I zoom out, as I use this zoom out technique, which might actually be the technique next week, let's do that. As I zoom out, I'm able to see I'm in a works, like a craftsman, shed where I'm doing carpentry work, right? So then I feel like I hear that scratching of the sandpaper and all of a sudden I see somebody like building boats, like literally with their hands, like canoes and kayaks and stuff like that. So the technique is blending the clairs. So again, and I am asking you essentially as part of these techniques to venture out of what you're comfortable in, to stretch yourself a little bit. So if you're somebody who always gets like visuals and emotions, can you try for sounds and knowing? Can you hear a Led Zeppelin song and just know that they went to a Led Zeppelin concert, even if it doesn't make any sense? Any sense, right? So we want to start blending the clairs. So my encouragement for you this week is to try this on for size at your next session. If you get a symbol coming in or you hear something, just get used to prompting yourself in session, getting curious about that and allowing that piece of information to come to life. All right, enjoy this technique, friends. I will see you next week with our technique of zooming out.